We are with Gabrini today, and she is 28 years old, a registered nurse, and has some awesome financial goals that we're going to talk about today. So, her three financial goals that she shared with me is pay off all debt within 3 years, and we can see if that's possible. We'll plug
Yeah.
those numbers in, see if that works. Fully fund your emergency fund by 2025. How much do you want in your emergency fund?
So I know I need about 1,800 per month just to cover my primary bills.
Mhm.
So I'm looking at maybe like 18,000. So that way, if anything ever happens, I get sick alongside like any of my like short-term disability or long-term disability, I can fall back on that if needed.
Okay, so 18,000 by 2025. We'll see if that's possible or what that would
Mhm.
look like. And then I love this one because it's way out in the future. Retire at 60 years old with $4 million. That's an awesome goal and definitely one of the bigger ones that I've
Yeah.
I've seen when talking to people. So that's awesome. Okay.
Thank you.
Couple of financial struggles. So first one would be keeping within a budget and
Mhm.
then prioritizing your wants over saving.
Yes.
Now, I know that well, first of all, thank you for being here. I really appreciate you sharing all of your numbers. I'm excited to get into everything because it looks like you have lots of potential for sure. In your application, you mentioned that you have budgeted in the past, but
Mhm.
have struggled to keep up with it. Can you tell me what that has looked like so far?
So I've done written budgets. I have budgeting books. I've done Rocket Money because I was like, okay, well, if it tells me I'm spending too much, I'll stop. I don't. um, I think what it is that sometimes I'm like, okay, yes, I need to save, but I really want this thing. And like, I still want to live my life. It's always like that in my head. And I have a mom who's very much like raised me with like, you can't die with money. So you might as well live the life you want, which is great to keep you from being a person who saves and never leaves your house, but isn't awesome when it's like, all right, but I need to save a little bit more. And in my head at the moment, I'm like, but wouldn't this like Match the Gathering card be so cool? Or like, if I plan this vacation, it's an experience.
Hmm.
So it's a lot of
Okay.
like that.
Got it. Okay. And with your, I guess, since you said you've tried all these different ways of budgeting, how have you handled your debt in the past as well? Like, well, first of all, let me say that Cabrini has about $34,200 of total debt, mostly student loans. So, did you have any debt before this, like a lot of credit card debt? Any history with
Yes.
that? Okay,
So I
that's
did have quite a lot of credit card debt, which I started tackling August of last year. I
mm-hmm,
started with 25,000, got it down to 7,000, which you'll actually see there's money owed to like me and my boyfriend. That's
mm-hmm.
because together we paid off that last 7,000 just to get it gone. We didn't want to have to deal with any of the interest anymore. So then now it's just paying ourselves back for the money that we had paid off the remaining credit card debt together.
Okay, so what is with that debt, what does that mean? Is it just you pulled from savings? Is it actual
Um,
debt? It's not actual debt,
no,
right?
it's not actual debt.
Okay.
So we had about 14,000 in savings together. Took 7,000 out, paid off the rest of the like consolidation loan that I had, and then made the agreement of I'll pay 420 a month to go back towards that, and we'll just put it towards like a house or something in the future for ourselves.
Okay, I see. So yeah, we could probably take that one off too and just really focus more so on putting that to savings. So
Yeah,
okay, so that debt is
yeah,
6,500, but it's really you just want to replenish your savings.
yeah.
Okay. And as far as your numbers go with you and your partner, are you keeping things separate otherwise?
Yeah, everything is separate other than the savings that we have together that
Okay.
we had started as like a housing savings. But we've pulled back from wanting to use it for a house just because my mom has always planned to give me her home. So it made no sense for us to like buy a place and then have my mom give me her house eventually when it's paid
Hmm.
off. Because for me, especially, it's interest rates are so high right now and we have such a hard time figuring out exactly where we want to live. It makes more sense just to stay at home, build up our savings, and then once we get her house, if it's not our forever home, at least it's a great starter home.
Okay, awesome. And so you had 25,000 of credit card debt and
Mhm.
then you paid that all off. So that's really good. What caused that credit card debt?
I like to call it my hot girl years, in
Okay.
which I was traveling a lot, like kind of like keeping up with the Joneses. My friends and I would be like at Fire Island, hear somebody went to like Bali, be like, oh, let's go there. That sounds fun. And
hmm
then it was me paying with my credit card. And then I just wasn't paying attention to how hard my interest was hitting me. Because I've always earned enough that I probably could have just like saved, covered it through my like actual earnings. But I wasn't doing that. I was just a lot of like, oh, I want this thing. Let's do that. I'll spend my credit card. I'll pay my credit card off later. And I never got around to actually paying it off. So
hmm
when I actually sat down was and looked at how high my credit card debt was, it was absolutely insane to me because I at 28 and making $106,000 a year, I could have afforded it. I could
Yeah.
have paid it out like by cash, or at least like I could have not had the debt. So it was very like frustrating for me to look at that number and be like, oh, you did that.
hmm Okay. Well, congrats on paying it down and
Thank
even
you.
just using your savings for it. That's a hard pill to swallow when it's like I
Yeah.
saved all this and now I have to use it. So I'm glad you're replenishing that, but that's really good. At least you've paid the high interest debts down. So what about with Stream Financial, that debt that you have? Is that a personal loan?
So that is a personal loan for home improvement. Um,
Okay, that's right.
our sliding glass door broke, so we had to have it replaced. And we want to just do it through loan as opposed to paying outright because we had just done a bunch of other improvements
hmm
that took a big hit on my savings.
Are you paying for that yourself?
Yes, my
Okay.
mom is gonna like chip in whenever she wants, but
Okay.
for the most part, most housing things except for the mortgage I take care of,
Okay.
just because that's our agreement currently.
And you mentioned in your application that you currently have a debt payoff plan. I mean, honestly, looking at your debts, you have that home improvement debt. I think you want to focus on that first.
Yeah.
And then after that, I guess what's been your debt payoff plan as of lately?
So I've been mostly doing the snowball method,
Okay.
which is how I got rid of most of like my credit card debt.
hmm
And then now I think the only things I really have that are actually percentage wise are the personal, the improvement debt, and then I think most of my stuff after that is just the student loans, which I'm in deferment right now, but I'm just paying off small payments towards those to whatever is the highest the high interest that would hit later on.
I guess with the deferment, why are they in deferment and when do you plan on resuming the
Um,
payments?
so right now I'm just went back to school for my master's in nursing leadership.
Okay.
So that should be finished in. I have 3 semesters left, and then after that it'll come out deferment 6 months after.
Okay. I was going to ask. So are you currently going to be taking on more student loan debt?
No.
No.
So
Okay.
my job will pay for the majority of my education, and then I only pay $300 a semester, and that comes straight out of my check.
Awesome. That's been a recurring thing. Everybody I've spoken to, they're like, I'm have my job paying for it. Like that's
Yeah.
amazing.
That was one of
Okay,
the big
so
things I
three.
was looking for when I was looking for like a nursing position was some
Mm-hmm.
place that would pay me to go to school or
That's
like
amazing.
at least reimburse me well.
Awesome. And once you get that nursing leadership master's, so right now your income ranges from a minimum of about $4,700 to 7,000, just depending.
Mhm.
You have two jobs,
Yes.
right? Okay. So how would that change your income on, and that's your take home pay. So how would that change once you get your master's?
So I will have about from my primary job, once I have my master's, I'll have about a $10,000 to $15,000 increase in my pay,
Okay.
just because that also opens up to other positions. But even staying where I am now, it'll bring me up at least 10,000.
Okay. Amazing. And you're not going into further debt. So
Got
you
lucky on
chose
that.
a good path.
Thank you.
We always need nurses, so love that.
Exactly.
Okay. And you do want to pay off all of your debt
Yeah.
within 3 years. Okay. So we'll see what that looks like. I think you can definitely do that. So that's on the debt with the 6,005. I'm going to make note of that 6,005, but I'm going to take that off of your debt list because I wouldn't count it as an actual debt. So 6,005 to replenish. And are you still doing 420 per month to
Yes.
build that back up? Okay. Okay. As far as your assets go, this looks really good. So
Yeah.
you have your checkings, that's good. High yield savings account is a little bit under 1,000, but you have another savings account with 9,000.
Yes.
How much of that do you have as your emergency fund?
So that is the savings I have with my boyfriend.
Okay,
But
okay,
our agreement is if my emergency fund won't cover it or his won't for any kind of event, then we can take from that. So I can use up to like 9,000 if needed.
okay. So which one is your emergency fund? The SoFi?
Yeah, the SoFi high yield
Okay.
savings.
Okay, so that's at 779. Do you want to build your own savings up first before tackling your debt?
Yeah, I think that'd probably be best at least to get to like 1,800 to cover 1 month of expended expenditures and then go
Okay.
from there.
Okay. So we can look at what that looks. You could probably tackle that within a month and then move
Yeah.
on to your debts. Okay. 401k,
Mhm.
that looks really good. Over $57,600 there. Are you still contributing to a 401k?
Yes.
Okay.
So my job does a up to a 3% match. So I always at least keep it at 3% to get the match.
Perfect. You have it at 3% right now.
Yeah.
Okay, I would keep it at that. Traditional IRA about 1,200 there, and then your Roth IRA over 8,000. Have you
Yes.
been trying to max out the Roth IRA or anything? Or what are you doing
So
with
I've
that?
had my Roth for a while. I am gonna try and max it out this year. I think
Have
I
you
have about
contributed?
yes, I've been putting in I think 100 a paycheck.
Okay. Okay, that looks really good. So altogether, your asset, $78,800. Of course, a little bit of that is split between your boyfriend, but that's okay. With the checking account, do you typically keep your checking account with a couple thousand in there?
Yeah.
Okay.
At least like 2,000. And then that way I can have all my bills paid, no overdraft fees. And then if anything happens, I have 500 in there extra just for the emergency.
Yeah, yeah, that's really good. I think that makes sense. And also that can act as an emergency fund.
Yeah.
So you even have more than an emergency fund, I would say, the 1,800.
Mhm.
Okay. So we talked about your income. We are going to go through all of your expenses and make a budget for September.
Yes.
I did want to talk about a couple of things with your spending because Gabrina did
Yeah.
send me her statements and I was looking through those. I think so you also listed your expenses here, and I noticed that either the numbers are maybe too low, like you may be
Mhm.
spending more in areas than you think you are, and also that you might have missed a couple of things. So really one thing I noticed. So
Yeah.
you have a lot of subscriptions is
Yes.
the first thing. I guess could you talk about that? Like are these for specific, is it for school or some sort of side hustle or
So Grammarly is for school. I'm trying to think of what else I
okay.
have. I know I have a lot of like entertainment subscriptions. So I have like Dropout, Netflix. I'm trying to think of what else I might have.
I can read that. You have
Yeah.
WebRoot.
That's my my antivirus for my laptop, and it
Okay.
also lets you like find your phone or laptop.
Okay. You have YouTube Premium, which I that makes sense, no ads. My Best Buy.
So I have a tendency to drop all of my electronics and break them.
Okay.
So Geek Squad.
Okay. Okay. And that's monthly, 15 per month.
I play annual, but like I split it up into what it
Split.
would be
Okay.
if I paid it
Got it.
monthly.
Okay. I think this might be a subscription to Wizards of the Coast.
Yes. So I'm a very big nerd.
Okay.
So Magic the Gathering and D&D. So
Got
that
it.
is my D&D Beyond subscription.
Okay. Okay. How about A&A?
And American Nurses Association.
Okay.
I have a membership through them, which helps with getting my it's clinical ladder. It's something for my job. Basically, it means I'm a higher level nurse, so I get extra pay. So it kind of
Okay.
covers that cost.
Okay. My Fitness Pal.
Food like food tracking, calorie tracking.
Okay, I've heard of that one.
Yeah.
The only one that I noticed that you might have missed on the list that you gave me was Kindle Unlimited,
Yes.
which is 11.99. So I added that in. I would say just to kind of obviously the purpose of today, we're going to make your budget and see what things will look like, your potential. But I think it will be important for you to track every dollar
Hmm.
just so you're not missing anything. You can definitely afford all of these things. You have very low expenses and a very high income. So that's amazing. But I would maybe go through every 6 months at
Yeah.
least, like maybe now and then 6 months from now, and make sure that you actually want all of these because it is quite a bit. And they're not going to break the bank, but they do
Yeah.
add up when there's so many. So, but that makes sense. All of these that you just explained, that absolutely makes sense. And then the main thing I noticed with your spending was food out. Lots of
Yeah.
DoorDash too, which I don't love. Like if people do want to go out to eat, I try to steer them away from DoorDash at
Yeah.
least. Like at least go pick it up. How do you feel about try so for July,
Yeah.
your I think it was American Express card, I added up
Yes.
over $400 of food out and I might have missed a couple of things. And a big chunk of it was DoorDash. So do you think that's a typical month for you?
Honestly, I think so. So I've looked at like my Rocket Money to like just see like what am I actually spending on, and door like food out is usually like 400 to $500.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I think it'll definitely be important for you to track. Like we'll create a budget and try to lower that a little bit,
Hmm.
or if you want to keep it at that, that's absolutely fine too, as long as you are comfortable with it. But if you can keep track of everything that you're spending so you
Yeah.
can make a realistic budget going forward and make sure you're just not spending too, I mean, in my opinion, food out is fine. I just don't love the delivery
DoorDash.
fees because it's like
Yeah.
you're probably spending $10, $15 more than you would
Probably. Yeah.
if you just picked it up. So, okay. So we'll look at what that looks like. That was the main, I guess the other one. Well, let me hear about your living situation. So you live with your mom, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
So I still live at home. So for the most part, I cover. So the way we have it set up is I cover everything but the mortgage. So like home improvements, electricity, like everything.
Hmm.
So that's our current situation at home, which I honestly I don't mind it because I probably spend less than I would on rent for like a test space for a 5 bedroom house.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you think you'll stay living there for some time?
Yeah. So our plan is once she retires, she'll be leaving the house to me. And then I will be added onto the deed at the end of this year, just to have it done with. So there's no like worries about anything once her retirement comes.
Okay. Once you have the deed, do you have to pay the mortgage?
So the plan is the first 3 years, she's going to pay half the mortgage.
Okay.
And then after that 3 years is done, once I've like proven I can handle it, she'll just give me the full mortgage at that point.
Okay.
But looking at it, we should honestly have the house paid off with her help with the first 3 years in 5 to 7 years.
Awesome. Okay. Do you know how much the mortgage is per
It's
month?
$3,700 a month, and she has $200,000 left.
Got it. Okay. You're in New York.
Yeah.
Is that right? Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. It's a pretty high mortgage. So, okay. Obviously, that's not going to come into play right now,
Mhm.
but maybe if we revisit this later, we can catch up in a few months and see what that looks like with you taking over half of it. So,
Sounds
okay.
good.
And so I see you're paying for Optimum, which I believe that's cable.
Yeah.
Is that
So it's
right?
cable, electricity, not cable, cable, landline, and the internet.
Okay. Because that one was high, but that makes sense. So it's three things. Sunrun, I Googled that. Is that
Yeah.
solar panels? Okay. How long will you have to pay that for? Is that for a
So
long time?
that is, I think she got it for it's 10 years.
Okay. AT&T $70. That's the phone
Yeah.
plan
It's my cell phone.
for just you?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you still paying on your phone as well? Like, are you
Uh,
financing your
no,
phone?
my phone was
Just your
paid
phone
off in
plan.
full.
Okay. With the LA Fitness charges, you have
Yes.
one for 46 and one for 125. Is that monthly or?
Yeah. So
Was it
46 is the regular like monthly gym access. The 125 is personal training up to 6 times a month.
got it? Okay. That's not bad. Are you going to continue that?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the Aspen University is the 375 that you have to pay
Yeah.
each
For
month.
schooling.
Okay. I think that's everything as far as my question. Oh, the other one that I saw, the
Yes.
other transaction I kept seeing is ATM withdrawals.
Yes.
It was like big
Um,
chunks too. So is
yeah.
that anything?
So I know at least one of the bigger ones was for my nails. I spend a lot on those,
Okay.
um, which is a problem. But it's like my like happy thing. So I think
Okay.
I spend about like $200 a month on nails.
Got it.
And then another one, if it was July, would have been going to Fire Island for
Hmm.
my friend's birthday because all of like the bars there are basically cash only.
Okay. So that was like a one, it was just in the month that you happened to
Yeah.
go more. Okay. And are your nails kind of a non-negotiable? Like you want to do them each month?
So I went from doing it every 2 weeks to like every 4 to 6 weeks now. Um, they are kind of my happy things. I'm a psych nurse and it helps me de-stress after like a really
Yeah.
bad week. So I think it's a non-negotiable. I'm happy to look at maybe trying to spend less though.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, we'll look at that. Do you have anything else that you would want to share about your debt, your assets, your income?
I'm trying to think. I know my income is a little bit like flexible, so that might be a little bit harder to nail down exactly.
Hmm.
But I think for the most part, I think we talked about everything that I can think of.
Okay. Yeah, when we make your budget, we'll go with the lower end, or
Mhm.
we'll talk about September specifically and see what that looks like. But going forward, if you're not sure what it's going to look like, if you can just do the 4,700 or whatever
Yeah.
the minimum that you're expecting, so it's more realistic. So I'm going to share my screen.
Mhm.
And let's take a look at your budget. So I did start filling in numbers. Now, like I keep saying, this is for September specifically. And for your income, do you think it will be the 5,800 or should we go any lower or higher?
I know I will be out of the country for the last like week and a half of September, but I do have PTO for most of that. So it
Okay.
should be at the lowest end, 5,200.
So let's do that. 5,200 for income for September. And you'll be traveling just like a week of September.
A week of September and then the first week of October, I'll be in Europe for those 2 weeks.
Awesome. It's exciting.
Yeah, really excited.
Okay. Any other income that you bring in, any side hustles or
No, just my full time job and my per diem RN
okay.
job.
So I did put in all of the expenses that you sent to me.
Mhm.
I know that you mentioned which one was it that you pay annually?
Yes, I think it's my Best Buy. I know I pay annually.
When is it that you
Um,
pay that one?
that is due in May, so that's already paid for the year.
Okay, so we'll take that one out.
And then I'm trying to think of what else. And then Red Root, I also pay annually, and that was paid in January.
Okay. And I'm gonna pop over here and
Mhm.
put that you have Webroot in January, which is it was like six something.
I think it's like $64 for the annual.
Thank you. 64. And then you in May, you pay my Best Buy 180. Does that sound
Mhm.
right? Okay.
Yeah, sounds about right.
So just as a reminder, anything else that you pay annually on this list?
Uh, Wizards of the Coast, I pay for my actual membership annually. And then any like small like interactions you saw with that were probably me buying like a book for
Okay.
D&D.
So about 54. When is it that you pay Wizards
That
of the
I
Coast?
pay in April.
About 54. Okay. So the order of your expenses are a little bit just kind of all over the place. So we'll just
Yeah.
kind of talk through these. I know that we kind of already talked through some of them, but
Mhm.
first is Dropout, that is $5.99. Google
Yes.
One, $1, absolutely fine. Grammarly, $12.99. LA Fitness 45.99 for the membership, LA Fitness 125. I'm actually going to combine the two.
Sounds
If
good.
you're okay with that.
No problem.
So 125. $170.99 total for gym and personal training.
Hmm.
Netflix is 16.83. YouTube Premium 22.99. AT&T $70.12. LIPA. Did we discuss that one?
LIPA, that's my electricity.
Electricity. Okay, 315. I'm assuming that's a you have a bigger house. That's a lot.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a 5 bedroom with a pool. And there's like a lot
Awesome.
of, my mom likes to keep her house open to family. So there's always like somebody or someone visiting.
Okay. Okay. So for September, do you think 315 is high enough?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have stabilized payments.
Hmm.
So it
Okay.
keeps it about like 315 year round. And then if I overpaid, they'll send me the money back. If I underpaid, they'll just add it to that next year.
Got it. Okay. And then Optimum was the other utilities, and that's
Mhm.
276.89. Is that right for September as well?
Yes.
Okay. Sunrun is for solar, 172.99. A&A, 15. You pay that monthly?
Yeah.
Okay. And then Aspen University is for schooling, 375. My
Mhm.
Fitness Pal is $4.50. So beauty is where we might be able to change. So you said
Yeah.
that you're paying about 400. You mentioned 200 on nails.
Yes. And
Is
then
there,
I go
yeah,
to an
what else would go?
esthetician once a month for like
Okay.
facial and extractions. That's about 200 as well.
Okay. So do you want to keep this at 400?
Uh, I can do like 350,
So would you be lowering your nail?
lowering my nails, keeping the esthetician.
Okay. So 350. And as long as you're okay with that, like as
Yeah.
long as I don't want you to take away your nails if that's I can understand that a nursing job is really probably
Yeah.
stressful. So if your nails
Honestly,
give you peace, that's fine.
I could probably like cut back on it either way because I've always like just get the extra thing with my nails or get the extra design. It's like I don't really need to have it. It's cool, but like it's not gonna kill me not to have it.
Okay. So 350 is okay.
Yeah.
Gas for your car, 320 for September.
Yes.
Okay. And then your car is paid off.
Yeah.
Is that right? Awesome.
Yeah, it is.
Groceries. How do y'all split that with your living situation?
So for the most part, honestly, my mom buys most of the groceries. I'll give her cash in hand every once in a while, but the 200's more of just like if I'm at work, forgot lunch, and I'm not like overwhelmed. There's a grocery store right by our hospital, so I'll run down there and get food.
Okay. So you comfortable with keeping that at 200?
Yeah.
Eating out. So we said you're spending over 400, it looks
Yes.
like. Would you like to try to keep this at 200 or would you want to be a little bit more realistic and keep that higher?
I think let's be a little bit more realistic. Maybe go to like 300 for that. Because
Okay.
I think I can probably pull back at least $100.
Okay. Yeah, definitely something to track and see what that looks like. Also
Mhm.
to see if you can cut back on the DoorDash.
Yes.
I've said this in past podcast episodes, but I have a client of mine. He budgets 1,200 per month on food out. But in the
Okay.
past, he was also doing a lot of DoorDash, so it was costing him more than the 1,200. So I said, okay, you got to cut out DoorDash then, and he's done that. Completely cut out DoorDash, and that's saved him probably hundreds every single month. So if you can get into the habit of that, at least I think it will knock
Definitely
off
change
that
things.
100. Yeah. So, okay.
Sounds like a plan.
That's a big one to focus on. And I'm going to start putting a little to do up here
Mhm.
actually. And that's going to be the first one is limit slash eliminate DoorDash. Okay. So next up would be medical. Is this just like doctor visits?
Yeah, so that's my copay, or if I have to get my medication, usually it's only like $20. So that
Okay.
covers like either of them.
Okay. So is that enough for September?
Yeah.
Okay. And then I pulled in your debts, which really you don't even have. I'm going to take this out for now. So
Okay.
Stream Financial is 67.47 per month,
Mhm.
and that is where you want to focus
Yes.
first, right? Okay, and let
Yeah.
me put back in. I'm going to put. the 6,005 that you had on there, you're putting that to the Beth Page savings.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to call it that Beth Page savings and put that at 420. And I'm going to put this in red just to note that it's a debt. And then this one I'll put in blue as a savings. Now, with your student loans, do you want to pay anything on, or have you said you have been paying a little bit,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
for September, do you want to add anything to that, or would you rather just kind of
Um,
heavily focus on your savings and
Probably
the,
heavily focus on my savings for now, especially because
okay,
it's not detrimental for me not to pay on my student loans.
okay. So you want to replenish 6,005
Yes.
with everything here. So let me first ask if anything, thinking of September specifically, are we missing anything? We might be with your travel. Do
Yeah.
you think you'll
I
be spending some on travel?
so I know all of our flights are booked right now. Our only thing to book are hotels, which we're trying to hold off to get lower pricing.
Okay.
But it should be about, oh gosh, we're going to 4 countries. Um, I think we were budgeting around 1,800 when it comes to bookings because we'll also be going with friends. So it'll be split between like a group of 5 people.
Okay. So 1,800 for just your portion?
For between me and my boyfriend, it'll be about 1,800. So
Okay. So,
900 for me.
okay. And what about, so I have some clients who like to, if they're paying for food or any sort of shopping while they're traveling, they count it all under travel. Would you
Mm-hmm.
prefer to do that, or do you want to,
Honestly, yeah,
if,
that makes more sense to do that.
okay, okay. So we have 900 for the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
How much do you think for just September, not the October portion? What do you think you will spend on food? I
I
know that's
know
hard to
that
predict, but
last year when we did this trip, we spent for the first week, we spent around 450 on food because we
okay.
usually go to the grocery store for a couple of days.
Okay. So 450. So that's groceries and food out
Yeah,
while traveling. Okay. Any spending that you want to do?
honestly, no, I don't
No.
really. I prefer the experience as opposed to actually buying things.
Okay. Yeah, I love that. Do you think 1350 is enough?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So 1350 for travel. And I'm just going to put a note here that that is for hotels and then groceries and food out.
Sounds good.
Okay. Now, do you have any specific, I don't think you do, but do you have sinking funds? Are you familiar with sinking funds?
I am familiar with sinking funds. I don't have any specific ones though. I
Okay.
know like watching your show, I've like experienced it. I also watched some people who do cash stuffing
Hmm.
to do their budget. So I they also have sinking funds as well. So I'm familiar
Okay.
with them, but I don't have any.
Okay. So you won't be pulling from any savings to
Uh,
cover travel, right?
no.
Okay. And do you travel often?
So we do usually around 3 trips a year.
Okay. So I would say so. That
Yeah.
may be one that you want to open,
Start saving for.
start
Sounds
saving
good.
for. Yeah, but we can see what that would look like. Maybe not in September since you're actually traveling, but after October, since you're actually traveling then too, you
Hmm.
could start that in like November, December.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
Anything else that we're missing for
I think that's
September
everything.
spending? Okay. So we have your debt, and then we won't put the student loans on there for now.
Hmm.
I will put that into the debt avalanche tracker, the snowball tracker, and see what how quickly you could pay off your debt. But let's see what's possible with your savings.
Sounds
So
good.
if we look at, so your income for September is 5,200. All of your expenses add up to 4,000. Actually, let me take out all of your expenses without that savings
Hmm.
add up to 4,068. And that leaves you about 1,100 to put to savings if you wanted to
Oh,
do that.
awesome.
Would you want to do the full 1,100
Yeah,
for that? Okay. So you could replenish a good chunk of the
what's remaining?
6,005. So if we subtract all of your expenses from your income, that leaves you with $32. I like to basically get to a zero base budget, but with a
Okay.
little bit of a cushion in case, you go
Something
over
happens. Yeah.
somewhere in here. Yeah. And of course, with the savings, if you want to wait until the end of the month and make sure that you actually can make that transfer, you can afford it, everything's paid for that needs to be paid for. It sounds like you still use your credit cards for
Yeah.
purchases, but you just pay them off
Yeah.
each month, right? Okay. Awesome. Okay, so this looks good for budgeting. I did want to, so let me see some. Let's plug in the debt avalanche numbers. Now, I am pasting these in here
Mhm.
as the highest debt to, or highest interest debt to lowest as far as your student loans go, which is why the order is a little bit different.
No problem.
I don't know if you would you prefer to continue doing Snowball once you finish Stream Financial? Would you want to do Snowball or would you be okay with Debt Avalanche, which is paying the highest interest?
I'm okay with doing it at Avalanche.
Okay. So that would have you in this order of your highest. So Stream Financial is 10.99%, and then
Mhm.
your next highest debt is 5.05, and that's a student loan.
Yes.
So let me make sure these are all right. So we are starting in August. That's when we're filming this. And I'm gonna just plug in $5 because otherwise this won't work.
No problem.
And if you paid just the minimum payments, it would take you beyond the 15 years. So it doesn't
Hmm.
even show that this is only for 15 years. Also, these numbers are not 100% accurate. It's just kind of impossible with these spreadsheets, but pretty close. And it's a good way to see what's possible with paying down your debt. But if we ignore August and September, and actually, I'm sorry, I want to go back to something.
Problem.
Would you actually rather, because we talked about, yes, getting that 6,005 replenished, but would you rather get the your personal up to 1,800 instead?
Yeah, that makes some perfect sense, actually.
Okay, okay. So I apologize. I mixed that up.
That's okay.
So we'll say 1,000 to that
Hmm.
instead. So SoFi, your personal savings, I
Yeah.
think you can put 1,000 to it. I'm sure you'll gain a little bit of interest in there to get very close to the 1,800.
Hmm.
And then your Beth Page savings, you could maybe do 100
Yeah.
if you're okay with that. Because then you'll, so to do is to put 1K to personal savings
Hmm.
because then you'll finish your basically your starter emergency
Yeah.
fund. Sorry about that.
It's no problem.
So you're not going to put extra in August to Stream Financial. You're not going to put extra in September. I guess with the and now that I'm thinking about it, we said okay, you could prioritize the Beth Page savings, but would you rather just focus on the Stream Financial?
Yeah, because
That's
no matter
actually
what, I'm not
cool.
gonna make back on that interest I'm losing.
Yeah. Okay. Is there a well, first, let me ask you this too. I'm so sorry, I'm hopping around.
It's okay.
With the Beth Page savings, are you okay with only doing 100 or did you want to do that 420 that you've been
um,
doing?
so I think the minimum I can like I'm comfortable doing is maybe like $200
Okay.
just to keep it like a little bit more. Because I know with my boyfriend, I usually put in like two at minimum, we're doing 250 each. So I could probably
Okay.
talk to him about doing maybe 200, 250.
Okay. So that does change things a little bit, gives
Yeah.
you a negative balance. So for those who are listening, I've been updating her spending her expenses a little bit and instead bumped up her personal savings to 1,000 so that she could finish her starter emergency fund of 1,800 and finish that in 1 month. And then instead of like focusing on replenishing the savings between her and her boyfriend, bumped that down to $200 instead of a big chunk of that. And that actually leaves her, if we subtract her expenses from her income, it's a negative number, negative 68 or so.
Yeah.
I think that's fine. I mean, realistically, you'll probably make a little bit more in
Yeah. More than
income.
likely.
If anything, you could obviously just bump this down to
Yeah.
900. So I'll do that for the so that this is positive. But realistically, I think you could
Do the
get
full
this to a
thousand.
thousand. Yeah.
Yeah.
So put 1K to savings if possible, and then lower savings to Bethpage. I'm going to say BP.
No problem.
As long as you're okay with that.
Yeah.
Is that an okay plan?
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Okay. If you focus on Stream Financial, because I want to see what October is going to look like for you
Hmm.
and kind of what's possible going forward. Let's see. With October, you won't have to do, you could probably do a little bit to your savings.
Hmm.
Would you want to continue adding to that on a monthly basis and slowly grow it
Yeah.
up?
I probably
I
could like
think
do like a set like 100 or something for like per month.
you did, your goal was to get to by 2025. By the end of
Yeah.
2025, you want to get to
Yeah.
18,000? Okay. And that would be your personal emergency fund,
Yes.
December. So you'd have about 2,100 in, if you did 100 per month after September,
Hmm.
you'd probably have 2,100, 2,200 by January of next year. So you would need to save over basically 16,000 for all
Yeah.
of 2025. And the beauty of it though is that you don't have to do that, you know?
Yeah.
If you get to 2025 and you're like, "Hey, actually I want to focus more on my debt and pay that off by 2025," or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. Can
So
totally adjust whenever needed.
if you wanted to, you won't have as much in travel. So I suppose for travel in October, obviously you want to recreate this when you actually get to
Yeah.
October, but you won't have to worry about the hotel, maybe just the 450 for
Yeah.
food.
Just for the
So
food.
we'll do the 450. And would you want to bump up the Bethpage savings at
Yeah,
that
if we
point
could.
back to
Yep.
420?
Yes.
And then the rest, ideally,
We'll go
assuming
into
everything
the
else is okay.
financial.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to go a little bit lower so you're not completely depleted, plus 1,400. So that
Okay.
means you can probably put 1,400 per month to your debt extra. So let's see what
Oh,
that would look
awesome.
like. So not in September, not in August, not in September, starting in
October.
October, putting 14. Of course, you'll want to reevaluate every month and
Hmm.
come the new year, it's going to probably look a little bit different, especially if you're going to be paying. That will change things. So I
Yeah.
actually want to talk about that too. If in January, let's just kind of see what that would look like so we can see. This is also saying that you only have 5,200
Hmm.
of income and that could change. But if you go into January, you're going to pay a portion of the mortgage, right?
Yes.
Half of the mortgage. And you said that that was 3,700, right?
Yeah.
Divided by two. So 1,850. Travel will be gone.
Hmm.
You maybe will be able to, let's say you put travel sinking fund if you want to start that.
Okay.
Okay, so that will change things quite a bit, actually. So if you start taking over the mortgage in January or half of the mortgage, will you still be paying all of these utilities on your own?
So at that point, yes, I would still be paying the utilities. But what will change slightly is that um, I should by then be getting partial reimbursements from my sister. So
Okay.
she has medical needs that she has. When we
Okay.
pay any utilities for her, she gets reimbursement about 25%.
How would that look with your numbers?
So for like LIPA, I would pay 315 out of pocket, and then I would get reimbursed by her accountant for her, like her case manager and accountant,
Hmm.
25% of that.
And also like the optimum.
Yeah, Sun Run, all of that we get reimbursed for.
Okay. So just those three.
Yeah.
Any others?
So we're gonna look at January. We're gonna have a meeting about her care. So we might ask to have reimbursement on the mortgage, but it really just depends on like what her accountant and social worker can cover for us.
Okay. Let's see what that would look like. So if we do, I'm not going to include the mortgage for now,
No problem.
25%. So about $191. Okay.
Yeah.
So a little bit more to work with. So you could maybe throw 200
Yeah.
at that
At Stream
point.
Financial.
Quick interruption here because I noticed that while filming this, I did not take out Aspen University from each month. I believe Aspen University, Gabrini is only paying for each semester. So that is $375 that I have on here being paid monthly. And if we were to eliminate that, obviously she could put more to her savings or to her debt. Apologies for missing that, but y'all do get the point. And she absolutely could pay this off sooner than what the debt free tracker was showing. Or to any debt, whichever debt you, once you pay that off. So let's see. So come for October through December, you should be able to put an extra 1,400 to your
Hmm.
debts. And then after that, about 200, maybe more, depending on your income too. So
Yeah.
this is definitely on the low end, I would say, being more conservative. And also, you're going to be graduating
Uh, that should be, I would say, December of next year.
2025. So let's say come January 2026, you're able to throw, let's just
Like
bump it up to
500.
500.
Yeah, I think.
Okay. So after graduating, you'll increase your income. This is very much
Hmm.
too soon to be looking at all of these, but just with what we have right now, you could, if you did all of that, so putting an extra 1,400 from October to December, an extra 200 from January 2025 to when you graduate, December 2025, and then an extra 500 after you graduate, you could be debt free by March 2029.
Oh, awesome.
Um, 24, 25, 26. You wanted to pay off your debt in 3 years.
3 years. Yeah. So it's
Okay.
later than I wanted, but at least it's a
So,
starting point so I can adjust and maybe
yes.
like pick up extra shifts or do whatever I have to do to maybe try
Yeah.
to bring it faster.
Yeah. No, I think you definitely could pay this off faster. This is just a prediction, seeing what's
Hmm.
possible. We also, these are just I threw in minimum payments just so we could see what's possible.
Yeah.
But I think you could absolutely accomplish that faster. If your income increases, who knows, with like the reimbursement, you could get some for the mortgage. And then,
Yeah.
how about with does your boyfriend live with you and your mom, or is it just you and your mom?
It's just me, my
What's your,
mom. He's here a couple of days a week.
okay.
We're talking about maybe having him move in which case the mortgage would be split 3 ways as opposed to two.
Okay. So see, everything could change
Yeah.
at any point, and yeah, you could have more to throw at the debt. So I think you absolutely could pay that off by 2027 or so, but
Hmm.
with these numbers, it would be by 2029. So that's not too bad. I know that we're kind of like looking far ahead, but hopefully that's helpful with just seeing what's possible. Definitely something to consider with
Yeah.
the New Year's approaching quickly, so you'll have to be paying the
Yeah.
half of the
Mortgage
mortgage
pretty
if you
soon.
yeah, if you do have to do that. So that makes it even more important for you to kind of cut back and just pay attention to your numbers.
Yeah.
If you can just keep widening that gap, I think that's your most important thing. Increasing the income, lower the expenses a little bit because no matter what, unfortunately, your expenses are going to increase because you're going to take
Yes.
over the mortgage. So if there's anything that you can cut back on, that will help a ton.
Yeah. Makes perfect sense.
So I'm going to also put for your to do. So for to dos, limit slash eliminate DoorDash if possible.
Hmm.
Put $1,000 to your personal savings. You'll basically knock out your starter emergency fund, lower what you're saving to the Bethpage Savings, the joint account with your boyfriend just for September. You can bump that
Yeah.
back up in October, and then work on, I guess, just lower nail expense is really
Yeah.
the kind of main focus. If you can get it for a little bit cheaper,
Will do.
I think that's a decent starting list of, I mean, everything else to me, you have a lot of subscriptions, but if you're using them, I think that's fine. I will put that as a to do though, like just review
Reevaluate.
subscriptions, and make sure you actually want these and you're using them. And definitely just make sure that they're all actually included. And speaking of, I'm just gonna
Oh,
pop it.
Kindle Unlimited.
Yeah, forgot that one. I'm just gonna throw it in here. And that was 11.99.
Hmm.
So that will change things very slightly, but you're still in the positive. So that's good.
Okay.
I'll add it to these too after we go through everything. But yeah, so just review those and make sure you actually want them. And I'm sure at some point, like, will Sunrun, I'm sorry if you already answered this, but will
Um,
Sunrun eventually go away, or is that
I think right now the payment plan is for 10 years.
okay?
Although I can reach out to them, try to find out if I can like speed things up at all, especially once I start looking at having the stream financial paid off
Hmm.
and my student loans paid off.
Okay. Yeah, and I know you had mentioned that you've been paying some to the student
Yeah.
loans. Are these, do you know which of these are subsidized versus unsubsidized?
So sub unsubsidized, I know I have three unsubsidized. I believe it's the three that are all $2,000.
Okay. Yeah, so just something to be aware of that unfortunately it's going to
The
increase what you
yeah.
owe each month. I don't think you, if you wanted to throw a little bit at that while you're still in school, then it would be helpful. But if you just focus on paying down the stream financial first
Hmm.
and then move on, I mean, I think that's really why um, this is taking longer is because like it's not going to make much of a dent to
Yeah.
the student loans. Like you're going to be increasing that debt if you're not paying anything to it, of course. So yeah, if you can knock out, oh, I didn't even notice this. So Stream Financial, you should be able to pay off by this
Oh, okay,
year.
awesome. Oh,
And then you
great.
can focus on the student loan debt. As far as I think realistically, your savings goal might
Mhm.
be a bit of a stretch if you wanted to speed up your debt payoff. We predicted by 2029. So if you
Yeah,
wanted to speed that up, you'd have to pay more to your debt.
as
And in
opposed to
order
the
to,
savings.
yeah, with the savings, you would have to add 16,000 in a whole year, and that's a lot, over a
Yeah.
thousand per month. And I think that might be a bit of a stretch. Definitely aim for it still. I think that's a
Hmm.
great goal. All of these goals are amazing. But maybe just slowly adding to it and find a number that you're more comfortable with for 2025 if you're looking at it and seeing, okay, 18K is probably not realistic.
Gonna
Maybe it
happen.
would
Yeah.
be 6K or, something around there, and you can
Yeah.
definitely get to that.
No problem. That
So
sounds good.
I will say come 2025, review financial goals
Hmm.
because I think you'll have to update that savings one.
Yeah.
And I'm going to put maybe savings to 8K question mark. I think that will be a bit more realistic. And that was the final thing. So with the 6,005,
Hmm.
I know you do want to replenish that, but personally, I wouldn't be too, if it was me, so this
Yeah.
is obviously between you and your boyfriend, but if it was me, I wouldn't focus on that too heavily. Like if I personally, like you have a decent amount in your savings, in your Bethpage savings.
Yeah.
So I don't know how your boyfriend handles his finances, but if he wanted to put more to that, sure, but I think you would honestly be better off putting more to your debt instead
Yeah.
of
That makes sense.
to your joint savings account. Like keep that in mind. But
Hmm.
at the end of the day, you have a decent amount in there. You're going to be building your own savings. And that, yes, it's going to gain you interest, but does that gain you interest in the Bethpage savings?
It does, but it's not a high yield savings account. So I think it's maybe at like a point, like point
Ooh,
two. It's very low.
interesting.
We got
Would
it more because they have a deal with my job where they will cover the closing costs if we ever buy a house. Cover closing costs, they'll help you find a agent, and then they'll give you like $300 towards your mortgage payments for the first year.
okay.
Yeah.
Is there a certain amount you have to have in there in order to qualify for the coverage and all of that?
If I remember correctly, it's not so much having an amount in there as much as being able to pay at least 15% of whatever cost your home is going to be.
Okay. So if that's the case, I would suggest opening a high yield savings account
Hmm.
as a joint account and putting a big chunk of it there. Because right now the interest rates are high. I don't know how much longer that's going to last. I know
Yeah.
rates have been like the economy's been weird. So I would suggest that if you want to still keep that account open and make sure you have enough in it to avoid fees or whatever
Hmm.
and get the benefits from it. But yeah, if you can just save this amount in a high
High
yield
yield
savings
savings.
account,
Yeah.
you'll get much more money. So if you're okay with that, I'm going to just suggest that open joint. high yield savings account. I mean, I know you have SoFi, but I use Marcus by Goldman Sachs. Ally is great. Synchrony Bank. There's so many options. So all should be over 4% right now.
Awesome. I'll have
Okay.
the conversation with him about it. I'm sure he'll
Okay.
be open to it.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a good idea because then you can, and I would move, let me say, move the bulk of savings to that of Beth Page savings. Because then just naturally it's building back up and you could get towards your replenishing the $6,000.
Very true.
So yes, I would also talk about with him seeing how he feels about slowing down on replenishing that because I'm not sure what he has in savings, but if you have a decent amount, he has a decent amount, you two have a decent amount together, then I wouldn't, you're
Have
better
to
off
worry so
paying
much
off
about
your
it.
debt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
He's a very good amount saved. So I'm sure like if we had the conversation, he'd have no issue like slowing
Yeah.
down or even just like pushing it off until after the debt's paid
Yeah.
off.
Yeah. Because that would definitely speed things up. Like you could instead throw the 420 to the Stream
Stream.
Financial, pay that off by earlier than December, and then move on to the student loans and focus on
Yeah.
that. So I think as far as investing goes, obviously I'm no expert, but happy to talk about it. But I think keep up with the 401k with the match.
Will do.
I wouldn't worry too much about maxing out. I mean, you can max out your Roth IRA if you're able to this year.
Yeah.
It depends on your income. But as far as going forward, if you can pay off at least Stream Financial and then start maxing out the Roth IRA or investing more heavily beyond that, just because the interest rate's a little bit higher.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think Roth IRA is great. And you also have a high income. So is that why you opened the traditional IRA? Like, do you know
Yeah.
what? Okay, yeah. So if
Because right now I'm like at the borderline of not being able to invest into a Roth anymore. Last year I made 158.
got it. Okay, yeah.
So
So maybe you could do your traditional instead, save a little
yeah.
bit on taxes, still keep you able to do that. Or you may have to bump up the 401k a little bit to
Yeah.
make room for that because I know it can get tricky. That's annoying to have to. It's a good thing and a bad thing. Like your
It
income
is.
is so high, that's amazing, but you have to pay more attention to the investing side.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a good plan so far. What do you think? How do you feel about
Awesome.
everything?
I feel like it's a really good plan. I'm like happy to have that, especially have the conversations going forward with my boyfriend, to
Hmm.
see how we can work together to get like my debt out of the way and then start maybe looking towards uh then reprioritizing filling back up our shared account, also moving
Hmm.
it to a high yield savings account. But I don't think it should be any kind of issues trying to deprioritize that, especially because right now we're not really looking to move into a house anymore. So it's kind of just a
Yeah.
secondary savings for both of us that we're not really
Hmm.
like paying attention to.
Right. Yeah. And you have a decent amount in there, so
Yeah.
that would be maybe if you could get it to a little bit higher if you wanted to, but I think that's a great amount already.
Yeah. And
Okay.
then just also help me kind of like zone in on what would be just some more realistic goals for myself. While the
Hmm.
goals are great,
Yes.
I'd prefer to at least have like a scope of what I can actually do. So that way I can work towards that and then
Mm.
adjust accordingly.
Yeah. And I think with your big goal of retiring with 4 million at 60, I think that's absolutely achievable.
Yeah.
Maybe you can absolutely look into that right now. We could plug in numbers into an investment calculator, see how let's do that actually. I'm just going to count these.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll say 67,000. You have 67,000 and you are 28. So let's say after 30 years, when you're 60, bump this to 7. And then let's see what that is with just 1,000. Okay. So if you wanted to get to 4 million, okay, 3,000. I mean, if this was higher, 8%,
Mm-hmm.
it's just so hard to predict, but you could probably go much lower. And this is just yourself, like
Yeah.
if you get married or whatever your situation may be, that's different too. Then you can combine things then. But
Yeah.
it looks like you'd have to do about 2,500 to $3,000 per month for 30 years in order to retire with $4 million. I think you absolutely could do that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's
with
good.
the way your income's going and your career path, that should be a breeze. So
Awesome. Thank you.
of course. And that's basically when you're debt free, not even right
Yeah,
now. So after age of 30. But that's another one you'll want to check in on
a couple of
every few
months.
months or so. Yeah, just to see what's possible. But I think that's a great goal. Now,
Thank
as
you.
far as I know that you struggle with staying in budget and like you were saying that you kind of just will spend on what you want to.
Yeah.
Um, so do you think that this is something that you would stick to, like tracking your spending and budgeting on a monthly basis, or how do you feel about that?
I think that's something I would actually stick to, especially I think what I always like forget is I can just like I can tell my mom or tell my boyfriend like, hey, I'm trying to stick to my budget. Can you guys just like call me out on things?
Yeah,
I think a
okay.
lot of it is like I make it, then I'm kind of like, okay, yeah, I'll like I'll check it myself. But if I tell my boyfriend like I don't want to do DoorDash anymore, can you just like call me out on it if I order DoorDash again? He will do that.
Okay.
So I think actually like locking in the fact that I have a support system would probably make it a
Hmm.
lot easier for me.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a good idea if you're willing to bring that up and say like you got these goals, you have some really big goals, which is amazing, but you do have to, of course, work toward those. I mean, I think for the most part, nothing is too problematic. From all of your
No.
spending that I saw, it was really just the food out and then just some larger purchases. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think you absolutely could do that. And if you're willing to keep up, track your expenses every single month, become more aware of that, make sure you're actually spending on, like, make sure nothing's missing from here, because I think there
Yeah.
might be a couple of things. And then repeat every single month, make a new budget, and go from there.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. And
Of
honestly, I
course.
appreciate the conversation. And I feel like the changes that we decided to make, none of them are so crazy that like I can't put myself through that.
Hmm.
It's not like an insanely drastic, like, oh, drop that like completely to zero. It actually like lets me have some space to get there. And then maybe I can keep trying to like lower my like eating out.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. Okay. And I would love to talk again in a few months and have you
That's
on
good.
again so we can see your progress because I think, yeah, you'll be in a much different place and just it would be interesting too to see if you are taking on half of the mortgage and how that has changed your finances. Because I find that I know when I moved out on my own, I
Mm-hmm.
know you're still living there, but if you had to take over the mortgage, it kind of forces you to be more responsible. It's like, oh, I have this big, I got to pay
Payment.
a mortgage now. So it's like now things are more serious. So I'd be
Yeah.
interested in to see how you react with that because at least for me, that's how it really changed things. So,
Honestly, I would love to like have that conversation, especially because like for myself too, I feel like a lot of my spending also is like in my head a lot. I'm like, oh, my mom has my back.
mhm.
So having to actually take the mortgage on and have her fully kind of be like, you're doing it now is going to be a
Yeah.
big switch.
Yeah, yeah. But that's amazing that you'll be able to pay that off within the next 5, 7 years and then
Yeah,
have no mortgage. That's incredible. So,
I'm really happy because like this
yeah,
is I love her house, so I'm really happy that she
good.
like had that conversation with me and was like, hey, do you want it at some point?
Awesome.
Yeah,
And you have a responsible mom who has the house. And I love that. That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. No,
Good.
she
Good for you.
is very much like a person who, while thinking that like money is like not the end all be all, made it a point to at least get herself set up and help me get set up as a person. So it's
Oh,
really
yeah.
wonderful.
Awesome. That's
Thank
really,
you.
really good. Okay. Well, do you have any other questions or thoughts, concerns?
No, but thank you so much for taking the time with me. And I appreciate it. And thank you for also giving me the Excel sheets as a like resource to keep using.
Yes, yes, these are yours. Feel free to update them. Let me know if you have any questions. So, no,
Will
thank
do.
you. I appreciate you being open to sharing these numbers, and I look forward to seeing your progress.
Thank you so much.